I do butcher my own game, and if anybody's wondering about the knife I use, I've been through several, and I found my favorite is the Victorinox. It's a 6-inch boning knife, semi-flexible. A really good knife makes all the difference when you're butchering. It could make the difference between a pain in the butt kind of job and a job that goes very smoothly and is a pleasure to work with. So I use this knife even to skin the animal. So what I'll do is I'll hang it up, okay? I'll put it on a gambrel and winch the deer up, and you don't even need that. If you have anywhere a tree in your yard or a beam in your garage, you could lift up the deer. But anyway, I use it to take the skin off. Eventually this knife will get dull, and any knife will. So as you're skinning the animal, as you find the knife to be cutting less and less, what you're going to want to do is sharpen it. Now this knife comes very sharp right out of the package, and it'll last a long time when you first buy it right out of the package. And you don't even need a stone, okay? Eventually, as you butcher your deer and hit bones and whatever, you'll degrade the edge eventually over a long time. It'll take a while. It'll probably take more than one deer of butchering that before that happens. But when it does happen, that's when you could use a stone and put a new edge on it. And I'll go over that very briefly. It's not that complicated, and you could definitely do it. Anybody could do it. But when you are skinning, butchering, cutting meat, the thing that's going to help you the most is a sharpening steel, and a good sharpening steel. This has a funny name. It's called an F-Dick, and it's made in Germany. And it's smooth. Has no ridges, it's not coarse, it's not raspy or anything. It's just smooth, and it's a very hardened piece of steel. Okay, and how you would use it is just like this. Okay, let me see if I can do it closer. Okay, and if you're afraid to cut yourself, if you're not that experienced, you could do it like this, okay, away from you. Okay, you can do it like that, it'll still work. Okay, this is a little faster. But believe it or not, this on a totally smooth sharpening steel will bring this edge right back to where it was. And that's all you need to do. It's not complicated. It's actually much easier than you would think. And then you could continue to do your job. Eventually it'll get a little dull. Skinning, butchering, and deboning with a sharp knife makes all the difference in the world. Maintaining the edge with a sharpening steel is all you need to do throughout the whole process. There are certain types of knives, like sushi knives, that you cannot use the sharpening steel on. You have to use the stone on. However, I prefer, and most butchers prefer, to use this type of system. This is called a sharp pebble. Okay, and it has the 1000 grit and the 6000 grit, or I should say the 6000 and the 1000 grit. And how this works is I like to soak it in the water. I mean, it even says it in the directions. I put it in a bowl and let it soak for about 15 minutes, and then I'll put it on a steady surface and I'll sharpen the blade. I'll have to show you on a table, but I'll sharpen it going this way, okay? Very little angle. And I'll sharpen it like that, okay? And I'll throw some water on it, okay? And I'll do it just like that. And again, I'll emphasize, I use the fine side of the stone. I don't need the coarse side. I have never needed it. For me, how often do I use the stone when I butcher a deer? Probably 2 deer or more, and then I'll use the stone. Sometimes I don't even need it. If I don't hit any bone or don't cut through anything, don't hit the cutting board too often, then I don't need the stone sometimes for a whole season. I sometimes haven't used it in a whole year. So that's how little you're gonna need the stone. And when I do use the stone with a fine blade like this, I'll only use the fine side, okay? So if you have a good knife, you don't need to hit the stone that often. I do use a $10 cheapo knife from Walmart. It's a fillet knife. It's called a Tsunami from the fishing section, but just about anything. And I treat it the same way as the good knife, and I sharpen it with the sharpening steel the same way, and it does work. It doesn't stay sharp for nearly as long, I do use it just to have a second knife on hand, but just to let you know, it doesn't stay sharp as long. But if this is all you have, you could butcher your deer with just this, and it'll work. You may have to use a sharpening steel a few more times than with the Victorinox knife. I'll put the link in the description for all this stuff, and you'll be able to take a look at it. Okay, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section. Also, appreciate it if you give me a like, or if you share it with your friends. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. It really helps me a lot. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.